Hey guys, welcome back to this YouTube channel. It's time for the mid-May update, and now we're going to talk about semi-detached properties. So it's been 2 weeks since we did the market update for May, where we looked at April's data, and 2 weeks is a long time in the Calgary real estate market. A lot changes. So instead of just sitting and waiting around for the June update, where it'll look into May data, I like to run stats and data on the back end so that I understand how the market's changing, and then I'm able to kind of predict what the next market update from the Calgary Real Estate Board is even going to say. And this way can be far more proactive as buyers and sellers in this market, which is very, very important if you want to set yourself up for success. So if, of course, this data is going to be, it's pretty raw, this video style. It's just me and you essentially going through the data, seeing how the graphs react. I'll explain to you what the different graphs are. And it goes into the different quadrants within Calgary so that you're able to get an understanding of how the micro markets, because of course you can't just look at Calgary overall. Different communities react differently, different quadrants act differently depending on the buyer and seller sentiment. And that's really what drives a market. It's at the end of the day, how much is the buyer willing to pay for a property, and how much is the seller willing to sell his property for. And understanding these sentiments and how people price their property and how much someone is actually paying over a period of time and observing the trends is a better indicator of where the market's going. So without further ado, let's take a look at the data for semi-detached for not just the last 2 weeks, but also the trend over the last 3 months. So right over here, you can see that we have 4 graphs. It's the price drop on the top left, so the amount of price drops happening and how much, and also the price increases in that very same graph. Over here, we have the top right, we have the above and below list price. So how much are people paying above and below list price? And it also gives you an idea of just the magnitude and the saturation. So the frequency of how much people are paying at any given time, but also to what extent. And as far as days on markets, that's DOM on the bottom left here. So you can see the days on market over time and then the sold price trend. So starting with the price drops, as you can see, it's pretty much flatline, getting close to zero. There's not a lot of price drops. So that indicates that the price, 2 things, the properties are being priced correctly. There's not much a need for price drops, and the sellers are agreeing to that price point. The buyers agreeing to that price point and are willing to pay the amount that the sellers are asking for. As far as above and below list price, so even though we are not seeing price drops, you're actually seeing a lot of people pay way above this price to a large extent, especially in the middle of April, actually, middle to end of April. You can see that huge saturation over here, and even the magnitude is significantly higher than anywhere else, almost reaching 100,000 for a bunch of properties. And that trend actually continues still right now in May. There's still properties hitting the 100,000 mark. I do see a drop in saturation though. And that is reflected then in the trend line. As you can see, the trend line significantly increased from start of the year. So all the way here from 17 Jan, but then started trending sideways. And now we will see if does that mean a slowdown in the semi-detached market, or is that just reflective of specific quadrants in the community? In terms of days on market, you can see a significant drop in days on market. We had a pretty high amount of days on market over here at the start of the year. Things pending from last year winter, like November, December into Jan. And then now that has significantly dropped with the high amount of demand. So this is a good forward indicator of how the inventory is behaving with buyer demand. And as far as sold price go, each of these segments, these mini segments, is a $50,000 change. So as you can see, if I make this a little bit bigger, we've pretty much seen about a $30,000-$40,000 increase because we started at the upper end of this segment and then we crossed over into this part, but now that has started trending back down. So I would say clearly the semi-detached market overall is cooling down, given that these 2 indicators are trending sideways and the sold price has started trending back down. But again, this could be indicative of just specific quadrants. And one caveat with all of these graphs, I have limited the sold price to 900,000 because while you could look at properties across all price ranges, it does muck up the data. As you can see here, people paying above and below list price. You start seeing properties, the one-offs where people pay 200,000 below list price. And so these are just anomalies in the data where it's not a true reflection of the mainstream market sentiment. And so that's why what we're going to do is less than equal to 900,000, and that's the way to go. But we do not want, oh, here you go. Choose the wrong one, less than or equal to. There you go. Okay, so back to where we were before. So these are all the properties below 900,000 mark, which is a fair amount for the affordable part of the market and to understand how that part of the market is behaving. Now to start looking at the different districts, and this is where things get a lot clearer, and this is where the data really shines, and it's extremely helpful to look at this. So looking at just city center, of course, there's not a lot of semi-detached in city center. It's mostly the infills and all those properties. But looking at that overall, the above and below list price still trending up, and is still seeing a significant drop in days on market. So pretty high demand for semi-detached in city center. So that's a pretty strong trend compared to what we were looking as far as the overall picture went. As far as East goes, you can see the days on market is actually starting to trend back up. Now, these data points are very less as far as semi-detached goes. So obviously, it's very easy to get this to swing either way if there's not too many properties. So this is something more we would keep observing as I keep doing the market updates and see where it heads off. But overall, as far as sold price goes, also you can see a trend a little bit down. But again, if something sells above here, that's going to correct itself back up. But as far as the last 1 week goes, it's been trending down a little bit. Looking at North, so North is a very popular spot, and you can clearly see the above and below list price, very strong trend upwards, high demand. Price drops wouldn't be really a good one to look at here since there's not much data. Days on market clearly trending up a little bit, and the sold price trending down. So even though people are paying above list price significantly in the North, the sold price overall is just trending down because properties are sitting on the market for a little bit longer. You look at the specific data for all of those price drops, increases, and how the buyer sentiment revolves around that in terms of how they react to it. Right over here, we can see the data for the last 4 months. So you got month 1, month 2, month 3, month 4. And month 1 on the top left basically is since mid-Jan to mid-Feb. Then you got right after that month 2, 3, 4, 5. Till 4. And what we observe is there is a significant amount of people paying above list price, especially in the last 3 months, and a drop in those paying below list price. So that reflects a very strong buyer's market still. So right over here, if you see month 1, it was 46% and a small correction dropped to 45 in month 2. But then we look at month 3 is 50% and then month 4 is 53. So there's a clear increase. But at the same time, we also see a drop in below list price. So the amount of people paying below list price was 47 in month 2. That then dropped to 39% and then now is 35%. So clearly there's a shift in the buyer sentiment over the last 3 months to want to pay higher price to get those semi-detached properties. There's a steady and slow increase in the number of price drops that have also been happening. So price drops in month 2 were at 10%, and then that increased in month 3 to 11.79, and then further increased to 12.79. So as soon as inventory came, there's a very strong buyer's market for all of that inventory on the semi-detached side of things. And the buyers have essentially been absorbing all of that off the market. There's also a dramatic increase in people paying above list price for price dropped properties over the last 1 month. So if we look specifically here, even though the amount of properties that saw price drops actually went up from 11.79% to 12.79%, so 33 properties saw price drops. But those 33 properties, when we look at how many people then paid above list price and below list price for those properties, 27% paid above list price versus the previous month was just 12%. And so this is an exact trend that we also found in detached properties And so clearly there's a sudden shift and high demand for once those properties have seen a price correction. So clearly semi-detached properties hit what I call the greed point, where sellers were essentially overpricing their properties, trying to capitalize on the market, but the buyers had already shifted away and they didn't necessarily find value in going after those properties that were overpriced. But once those values were then corrected, buyers were even willing to actually pay above this price for those properties. And this is relative to the new price that was then set to that property. And there's also a steady increase in properties selling above list price for properties that actually didn't see any price change. So just as a sanity check to make sure that the overall trends, what we are reading for price drops and overall is actually true, is even to look at the prices, the properties that saw no price change. So when we look here for the past 3 months, properties that saw no price change but sold above list price, it was 49% in month 2. That shot up to 56% in month 3, and then now is 57.14%. So it's a smaller increase over the last 1 month, but clearly an upward trend. So overall, still a very strong sector of the market. We are definitely at that greed point and probably past it, or we could be nowhere close to it. It all depends on how buyers decide to react to the market that for properties that are going to come on the market now. But we clearly see that shift in trend, especially over the last 3 months, and sometimes even just over the last 1 month, which is why we need probably 1 more month of data to validate some of that hypotheses. But it's very similar to what's happening in the detached part of the market. And so if you found this data valuable, and you like this kind of raw data outlook into what's really happening behind the scenes in the market, make sure you show your support, like this video so that I can reach and help more people like you. I will try to make more videos like this, and this is what I use to help all my buyers and sellers to really maximize the best timing for them and how to be proactive versus reactive to the market, because you then understand what's going to be happening, say in a month or 2 weeks from now. While the market report comes out, you'll already be aware of the shift in trends. And of course, I just went over all the different quadrants, but if you're looking for a very specific community, you're trying to buy, sell, or invest in a very specific community and trying to understand what the trends are for that community, make sure you reach out. Because, for example, some of the things we can do here are, we can go over here and, for example, in districts, if we had just selected Southeast, we could, and say, for example, you're looking to list a property in Auburn Bay, what we can do is we can actually look at just the areas right around Auburn Bay and see how they're performing. And that will give you a better idea of the trend of the market sentiment for that specific part of the market. And so these graphs are extremely helpful, provides you a lot of insight. And so if you would like to sit down over a call, there's way too much for me to go over in a single video over YouTube. But if you are looking for something very specific, feel free to reach out and I would love to have that call with you. And hopefully you found this valuable. If you did, definitely drop a like. Helps the YouTube algorithm, shows your support, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Till then, take care.